Hi, divas and gentlemen. Welcome to my vanity. Okay. I don't want to be on camera right now because this is just a quick makeup tip. And this is one of the ways you can help make your foundation last longer. If you use a sponge, that's the point of the video. If you don't use a sponge, you can go ahead and look away. Anyway, most of us use sponges because they're great to blend. They distribute nice, you can pack it on, you can diffuse, you can do a lot with one little sponge. But the down point is it absorbs most of your product. So I did a little experiment, and I took a foundation that I don't use. It's way too dark for me, obviously. And I did this test on 2 sponges. These are just regular sponges. Only difference is this one is wet. Can you see how much larger it is compared to the dry version from the same brand of the same thing? Now, it is a sponge. It's going to absorb what you put on it. So, now I always keep a bottle of water on my vanity, okay, to spray my sponges in the morning, and instead of me having to get up and go to the sink, because I'm lazy like that, honestly, I just spritz my sponges and go into my liquid foundation. When you wet a sponge, it expands. Obviously, that's why it's larger than the way it was before you wet it. As you can see the difference. Also, sponges have these little cells, they kind of look like a honeycomb kind of effect. And I'm sure you all know this, but I'll tell you anyway. When the cells have water in them, these sponge cells, I don't know the name for them, but they'll expand. Okay. Now, since you wet your sponge, you're not catching as much makeup in these cells because they're already expanded and they're full with moisture. As compared to putting it on a dry sponge, that sponge is just going to suck up all the liquid it can. If you wet the sponge, fully wet it, and then give it a squeeze to release all the extra water, it's still going to be slightly damp. Just, squeeze it to how wet you think you want it. I don't know. That's up to you to experiment with. So this one I soaked and squeezed out all the water. This one is just dry. Okay? Now, as you can see, I also cut these open. Now, as I was saying, I took some foundation, put it right on the sponge, and worked it in really good with the brush. And I did that to each sponge about 4 or 5 times. And I really pushed it in and dug in there. Then I cut them open to see what's inside. Now, here is the sponge that was dry. Okay? And I'm going to open it, and you can see that's how far the product went into the sponge. Okay? That's pretty much all the way through. It starts going through at about here, halfway through. So that's what you're wasting. That's what's never making it onto your skin. So the wet sponge, I did the same thing. I took the back of the brush and really worked in the foundation multiple times. Same with the dry. And now I'm going to open the wet one and show you. I cut this one open as well. Scissors right there. And compared to the dry, okay, you're only wasting that much product compared to this. Now, you are always going to lose a little product, but why not make your foundation last longer? Wet your sponge. That's all you got to do. Alright, so hope that helps somebody. If you have any questions, concerns, or comments, leave them below. Another quick tip while I'm here, because I'm good for that. You can reuse these if you must. Instead of wasting any kind of hand soap, shampoo, or facial wash and some lukewarm water, and you can use them wet or dry. Now, if you're worried about your foundation getting watered down, because let me show you. As you can see, the pigmentation here is a lot darker than it is here. If you're worried about that, you really shouldn't be. I don't think, because not only is this wet sponge softer to the skin, it glides the foundation on very nicely and makes it, to me, like silk. So even if you use a cheap drugstore foundation, example, it's really going to go on a lot smoother. It's going to kind of hydrate your skin with the water, and you might have to put on a little more depending on how much you need, but it really just makes it glide on like a dream. Now, of course, if you use a sponge with powders or mineral foundations and you choose to use a sponge, don't wet it for that purpose, because I don't know how that's going to react with your minerals. I would just, don't do that. But for liquid foundations, this tip is great. Not only is it softer, I have dry skin, flaky skin, and I hate rubbing a sponge on it. So since I love sponges, though, I wet it, and it hydrates as I'm putting my makeup on. It doesn't not necessarily dilutes the makeup, but it seems to like make more of it, and I could always seem to get a little more out of the sponge when it's wet. So go ahead and wet your sponge. If you want to do this experiment at home, go right ahead. But I'm telling you right now, you're not wasting as much. Thanks for checking me out, guys. More tips coming up.